I want to talk to you. Some of you have already seen the label that I placed on this morning's session. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Now, I can go many different ways with that. I can talk about that from the standpoint of many different issues, many different matters. But this morning, I want to talk to you about how to engage in conflict resolution. How to engage in conflict resolution. When most of us hear the word conflict, what immediately comes to mind is a negative encounter with someone or something that often produces harsh feelings and or unpleasant outcomes. And believe it or not, if that is what initially comes to mind, in most cases you wouldn't be far off, if any at all. You know, conflict does entail a lot of that. Again, y'all know me, I'm always giving you all definitions. The Webster definition of conflict is fight, battle, war, an armed conflict, competitive or opposing action of incompatibilities, antagonistic state or action as of divergent ideals, interests, or persons. Now, I know that's a whole lot there, but that's what all is entailed in conflict. Let me break that down a little simpler. Conflict is trouble that most of us would just rather not deal with. It's because of all of the negativity associated with conflict. It is because of how deeply our emotions get involved whenever we are engaged in conflict with other people. Conflict is not something that feels good. Now, I know that some people may thrive on conflict, but the average person does not enjoy being engaged in conflict. Why so? Because conflict has the potential to wreak havoc in a person's life. I know that to be very, very, very true. Conflict can be a devastating and destructive element. Conflict has the potential to destroy relationships, both business and personal. All of that damage. And sometimes that damage is irreparable. It cannot be reversed. And so that's the reason why most people just absolutely do not like conflict. The people that enjoy conflict, if you look deeply into their character and their nature, they're just messy people. You know, some people actually get a high off of a good fight or a good argument. There are some people, some of y'all might say, I used to be like that, used to go around looking for fights, both verbal and physical. Some people would just go around, if they couldn't find a fight, they'd create one because they just enjoy it. It's something about conflict that just gives them this rush. And if they're one of those people that feel like that they can often come out on the better side of conflict, they use their drive to start conflict as a tool for bullying other people. Some people are better at dealing with conflict or handling conflict than others. And those who think themselves to be very good at handling conflict can be bullies in a sense. And it's not that they're good at handling conflict, but again, it's all because of the rush they get behind engaging in conflict. And some people, the bigger the audience, the more intense they become with engaging in their conflict because it makes them feel big in front of other people. I mean, just watch these kind of people. Some of you know of these kind of people that love to look big in front of the people. But sometimes those very people that try to look so big and so tough and so powerful in front of other people, if you get them by themselves, they become as soft as cotton and quiet as church mice. That's because they're trying to project an image of someone that they really are not. They're putting on airs. They're putting on a show. But again, they love getting in the midst of conflict. But a lot of us just, we don't like conflict. I believe that most of us, I can say, don't like conflict. So what do most of us do at the slightest sign or hint that conflict is brewing? Most of us avoid it. That's true. Most of us avoid it. I tell you all the time that I've been being very transparent with you all concerning me as a person, as a pastor, as a bishop, whatever. I've been trying to be very transparent with you all because, see, sometimes I believe that my transparency will help you in that you'll feel as though, or you'll come to the conclusion that I'm not as crazy or as different or as weird as I thought I was. Sometimes the things that you think only apply to you, others feel the same way, go through the same things. And sometimes you need to know that people who are in positions of great responsibility experience normal things in life. We experience some of the same things everybody else does. Doesn't matter that we have a title. Doesn't matter that we have a position or great responsibilities over large ministries or over large departments for major corporations. It doesn't matter the position that a person holds. People are people. I don't care what level or place they are in life. Doesn't matter what level they're on. Doesn't matter where they are in life. People are just people. And everybody is subject to everything or anything that could possibly occur in the life of a human being. Now, again, most of us avoid it. Transparency. I do everything I can to avoid conflict. I'm one of those, I'll avoid it. I'd rather avoid conflict. And then many of us face it, but try not to respond to it, thinking that it will just go away. Guilty again. Guilty again. Depending on the situation, I know I have to face it, but I try not to respond to it, hoping that it'll eventually just resolve itself or just go away. And that doesn't always happen. And one of the reasons why I react that way at times is because there have been times, there was a time in my life, and I thank God that I'm moving further and further away from that now, but there was a time in my life where I believed that I had to be a people pleaser. There was a time in my life that I thought that the Christian thing to do, and I wanted to always please God, the Christian thing to do was not to respond to conflict. I'm exercising temperance. I'm exercising patience with that other person. And I don't want to contribute to inflaming this conflict that's already brewing and stewing. I don't want to make matters worse. I'm going to be the Christian here and show my Christian attributes by remaining silent, not saying anything, being sure that I wasn't offending anyone. The problem with that is that the position that I was in, and even the position I'm in right now, really demands that there be times that I must confront conflict. And I'll be the first to tell you that there were occasions in the past, over the history of my time as pastor, or just over the history of my time as serving in leadership, there were times where I allowed things to brew and fester and to go on. And the end result was, not only did it hurt me, but it, to some degree, affected the ministry adversely, because I was not willing, for lack of a better term, y'all got to accept this right now, but I was not willing to put some things in check. I didn't want to run the risk of hurting someone's feelings, rubbing people the wrong way. Because, see, a lot of times when conflict occurs, even now between two people, there are always people on the perimeter of that situation that feels as though that whatever happens with one or the other individual, that person is going to be affected and even offended by it. You know, I was having a conversation with someone the other day after I gave the lessons on not being offended, and not being offended because of because of Jesus rather. And we got to talking about people who borrow other people's offenses. That's what happens sometimes with conflict. It could be conflict between two people, but the people on the perimeter of the conflict will borrow the offense of one or the other, and they find themselves disliking one or the other because how they feel about one individual. And if that opposite individual says something that the one individual doesn't like, and they're in the camp of that individual, then they're going to get upset with the individual who has to bring some order to a particular situation. I hope all of that made sense. But please understand, as much as I would try to ignore the situation, ignore the conflict, it wouldn't just go away. Sometimes it would begin to grow like a cancer and manifest itself in different ways. And it begins to spread. And that's the reason why it needs to be dealt with and contained immediately. Bold people that are really, really bold, when it comes to conflict, they will face it, deal with it. But here's where the wisdom comes in. They try to resolve it. They try to resolve the conflict. I want to remind you, I'm going to say this again. Conflict will not go away by just avoiding it. Conflict will not go away by ignoring it. The only way that conflict is going to go away is by resolving it. I want that to sink in for a minute. Sink in. Conflict will only go away by resolving it. Now, I know some of you may be feeling as though that some conflicts just seem not to be resolvable. And I'll get into that a little deeper in just a few minutes. But even if you have come upon a situation that seems not to be resolvable, you still cannot afford to allow that conflict to dominate your thinking, to dominate your life, to dominate your actions, to dominate your interactions with other people. You know, that conflict in one way or another has to be resolved. Now, the reason why many of the conflicts that most of us engage in are never resolved is because most people don't have a clue of how to engage in conflict resolution. Most people don't even know what the process of conflict resolution even looks like. And to be honest with you, some of you may not admit it, but you may be being introduced to the term for the first time in your life. We can't assume that everybody's been introduced to the term conflict resolution. And even if they have, they really didn't fully understand. They may not fully understand it. Now, there are some terrible misconceptions about conflict resolution. Terrible misconceptions about how to resolve conflict. And I'm going to give you a few here. Number one misconception. And if you can't say amen, say ouch. In order for a conflict to be resolved, I must win. In order for conflict to be resolved, I must win. Think about this. If you're the only one winning, has the conflict really been resolved? Because if you must win, that implies that the other person has to lose. And if that other person is left feeling like a loser, then the conflict really hasn't been resolved. As a matter of fact, you likely will have stirred up another issue. Because when we desire to win, a lot of us have a tendency to pull out all of that emotional artillery. We gather in all of that emotional ammunition and we begin to shoot it at the other person. We're going to get this thing settled right here and now. And the attitude comes with it. We're going to get this thing settled. I'm going to win this thing. I'm right, you're wrong, and you might as well come to grips with it. No, that is not conflict resolution. Think about it. Some of you all are getting irritated even now while I speak. Boy, I know you're right about that. Because some people has been like that. And again, if you're that person yourself, if you can't say amen, say ouch. I think all of us may have engaged in conflict at one time or another where we felt as though we must win. Misconception number 2, the person with the loudest voice has the upper hand and will likely win. Here's what you got to understand about communication. Just because you're being loud does not mean you're getting your point across. As a matter of fact, with a lot of people, the louder and more aggressive you become in your communication, it is more likely that they will just shut you off or tune you out. Or they'll start to try to match your level of volume. They'll get as loud as you are, and you're having an exchange where no one is hearing anyone. Y'all excuse me a minute. I just see that First Lady just commented, hey man, I didn't know she was in yet. Good morning, First Lady. Y'all know I'll wait till the very end. If I see her, I'm going to say good morning to her, my girl, my doll, my boo. All right. So back to what I was saying. Don't hate on me, y'all. That's just who I am. When you're trying to match one another's volumes, the message is not getting across. There is no message that is being delivered. And so it does you no good to keep elevating your voice. As a matter of fact, I believe that when we use the lower tones and speak with a more calm voice, I believe that we have a greater chance of getting through to the other person, because sometimes they know they have to really stop and listen, because they finally come to the conclusion, wait a minute, I'm raising my voice but they're not raising their voice, or you're saying some things at a normal level, and because they're not hearing any of your shouting, they'll say, what you say? What you say? And that's where you want them. You want them to be at that what you say level, so you can actually talk about what you need to talk about rather than shouting at each other some things that make absolutely no sense. Have you ever been in a shouting match with someone and you said something that after you said it, it didn't even sound right to you? You're thinking in the back of your head, if you were telling yourself the truth, you say to yourself, well, that was kind of stupid. That was a dumb comment. That didn't even make no sense. And some people even trap themselves like that. But it is because you're not thinking, because your primary objective is to make sure that you're being heard over that person, or that your voice is far exceeding the voice of the other person in volume, and nothing is getting accomplished. The third misconception about conflict resolution is this: there is always a right and a wrong where there is conflict. That is not necessarily true. There does not have to be a right and a wrong. There could be just two opposing opinions. And there could be, and often is, great validity coming from each individual, even though they have differing opinions. Think about that. You know, a lot of us, again, with that desire to win, in the midst of the fight, a lot of us will shout, I'm right, you wrong. I'm right, you wrong. And you know you're wrong. And you know you're wrong. Boy, I'm right in some of y'all's driveways right now. Some of y'all don't want to comment right now, because your comment would have to be, Lord have mercy. I mean, and really, it's not solely your fault. Why is that? Because some of you were trained that way. That's how you were developed. Every time you saw a good fight, and I'm not trying to talk about your parents, but some of it came from your parents, yelling back and forth at each other. And it seemed as though, because it was actually the case, one of them was trying to always win. And most of the time, the man would often be the loudest, because most men are not going to win a war of words with a woman. Now, women, don't get mad at me, but y'all can take some words and say some things, and you get started and you like the Energizer Bunny. You don't let up. You know that man, in a lot of cases, can't think as fast as you do. You take advantage of that. You run that fella down into the dirt. You make him feel this high. And all he can do is get angry because he cannot match your war of words. And your position is always I'm right, you're wrong. Deal with it. And let me give you the key phrase. When a man feels like he don't want to fight no more, he'll say, whatever. He'll say, whatever. You tripping. Whatever. I mean, think about this. If you stop and listen to most arguments, most conflicts between people, especially a heated argument, the points are made in 2 sentences or less. The real issue is really addressed in 2 sentences or less. Well, how does it keep going over and how does it keep going for hours and maybe for days? Because we'll take the hot button items and we'll repeat them over and over and over and over and over. And we might say them a different way, but we just repeat the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Feeling as though if I say it enough, I'm going to get my point across, you're going to give in, and I'm going to win. But in that case, nobody wins. There is no right, there is no wrong. And sometimes you just have to come to that conclusion. It's not trying to discover who's right and who's wrong, but sometimes it's a matter of discovering some common ground. We hear the word conflict a whole lot, and we try to avoid conflict, but there's another word that goes along even with conflict, which is very instrumental in conflict resolution, and that word is compromise. Sometimes we have to compromise, be able to see the other person's position. And I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself right here. But let me go to the next point. Okay, the first one, misconception is I must win. The second misconception is that if I'm louder than the other person, I'll likely win. The third misconception is there's a right and a wrong when there's conflict. The fourth misconception is this: one party must make the other party change if resolution is going to take place. That's not necessarily so. And that's an exercise in futility a lot of times when we're trying to make the other person change. We waste so much time trying to force someone to mirror us, to be exactly the way we are. We don't think about the fact that, as we often say, sometimes opposites really do attract. And when opposites attract, it brings balance to the relationship. You know, the problem is sometimes we come together and we stop wanting to accept one another's differences. Now, I'm not suggesting that you use your difference from the other person to be harmful toward that other person, to be disrespectful toward that other person, or to not try to be accommodating toward that other person. But you use your differences to see how you can blend together to make a greater whole, if you will. Am I making sense to you? You don't have to change the other person in order to resolve conflict. Number 5, everyone must have the same perspective on the issue at hand if conflict resolution is to take place. No, not necessarily. No. Having different perspectives can result in creating something that shows the beauty of variety. Wow. Because there is beauty in variety. When you talk about variety, variety is orderly, but there is beauty in it See, there's a difference between variety and just a mess. Perspectives, different perspectives can create an atmosphere of beautiful variety. And then the last one I want to give you, number 6, is that a misconception. Someone has to be the bigger person. I dealt with this last week. Again, think about this. We keep talking about somebody needs to be the bigger person. Well, comparisons cause conflict in the first place. I'm bigger, so that means you have to be smaller. Ooh. Well, I'm handling it better than you handle it. Ooh, comparisons. And you know what comparisons do? They irritate people. Nobody really likes to be compared to anyone else. They are who they are. That's the reason why during conflict resolution, you often hear people say, well, that's just me. That's just me. And they're telling the truth. They're being 100% honest when they say, well, that's just me. The thing that we have to do is see one another for who each of us are. And if we're going to have a relationship, let's bring things to the table that will, here I go again, bring value to one another rather than tear one another down. So again, instead of me always trying to find a way to be the bigger person, I need to find a way to find common ground with that other person. See, the key to me is looking more at yourself rather than looking at that other individual. Operate based on your level of maturity, but don't compare your level of maturity to what you have deemed to be the lack of maturity of the other person. Here's another one I'm going to throw in here that's going to throw some of you for a loop. All conflict is not necessarily bad. There are actually 2 types of conflict. There is healthy conflict and there is unhealthy conflict. Conflict does not have to be antagonistic in nature. Healthy conflict can produce positive outcomes. It can be very productive in nature. I want y'all to think about this. Healthy conflict can shake up the status quo. Do you ever get tired of things just being the same old, same old? It's called monotony. You get tired of things being so monotonous. Same old, same old. You already know what's going to happen. Healthy conflict, particularly within an organization, can serve to help promote clear vision. Healthy conflict can lead to the discovery of hidden gifts, talents, and fresh insight. Yes, it can. Why? Because where there is healthy conflict, there is a productive exchange of ideals. A productive exchange of ideals. I have a team of people that work with me, my staff and support team. And I bring those people to the table. And one of the first things that I told my team when we got together, I told them, I said, you have full permission to disagree with me. I just ask that you be respectful in your disagreement. My staff people, some of them are in the chat room right now. They'll tell you, I don't have a problem with you disagreeing with me. Go ahead. But at the same token, I want you to give me the freedom of me disagreeing with you. I made those the ground rules from day one. And I'm just going to be, here I go, being transparent again. I had a team around me at one time that those were the ground rules. And I would allow them to disagree with me so long as they were respectful. But the moment that I disagreed with some of them, they got into their feelings. They got in their feelings. Turned on me. You know, well, he's always cutting this down, cutting that down. Listen, let me tell y'all something. If I disagree with you, it's not going to be just for the sake of being disagreeable. I'm going to give you every reason why I disagree with what you're saying or proposing. And I don't just come at you by saying, well, no, that's stupid. That ain't gonna work. No, that's not how I operate. When that happens, when a staff person or a team member brings something to me that I feel that will not work, or they present something in a meeting that I feel won't be in the best interest of the ministry, I will say, well, now, wait a minute. Let's look at this for a minute. What about this? What about that? What about this, that, and the other? Again, staff members or team members, they're on here right now. They'll tell you this. I will make a proposal, lay it out before my team members, and see if they can poke holes in my proposal. Because if my team members can poke holes in my proposal isn't solid enough. And I'm the pastor. I don't just say, well, I'm the pastor, this is how it's going to be. No. I want to see if you'll poke holes on it. Then sometime I'll be trying to see if you're going to be bold enough to poke holes on it. Because I don't need yes people around me. I need people who understand vision and have a desire to see the ministry move forward. Now, I know it's been said that all I want around me is yes people. No, that is not true at all. As a matter of fact, let me tell y'all what I do with some of my own proposals. I'll present it before our team. And while I'm presenting it, I start poking holes in my own proposal. And I start poking holes in it, hoping that maybe someone else on the team will say, well, you know what, Pastor, I was sitting here thinking that may not be the best thing. Maybe we need to do this, to do that. That's healthy conflict. You know, but some people think, oh, that's the bishop. I ain't going to disagree with the bishop. No, don't get disrespectful now. We're going to maintain our respect because I'm going to respect you and I desire for you to respect me. You know, we owe that to one another. But again, if there is some healthy conflict within the organization, it helps to promote clear vision. It can lead to the discovery of gifts and talents and insights that you may not know are present on your team. Wow. Having differing opinions in the room can be a good thing as long as everyone respects one another's opinions. Don't start spewing negativity toward one another, trying to get the upper hand. Listen, some companies or organizations actually engage in what is called orchestrated chaos. They purposely create conflicts in order to shake things up and to move the company or the organization from the status quo. One of the most dangerous and counterproductive statements that's often made in organizations is when people are presented with new things, with change, and the first thing they say is, why we got to change? We ain't been doing it that way. And the truth is, a lot of organizations fall into a state of decline is because they never shake things up and move to something different and better. Because see, I don't care how much in love you are with a particular process, a particular system, at some point, the fire for that particular thing is going to fizzle out. And if you don't catch that fire before it fizzles out, if you don't stoke the fire before it fizzles out, if you don't shake some things up before everything fizzles out, it's going to go from being in decline to becoming totally dead. It will die. It will die. I mean, think about this, y'all. What if we never changed anything about Canaan since the time that I was elected as senior pastor? What if everything was the exact same as it was back then? What if absolutely nothing changed? We'd still be stuck on Chestnut. We likely would not be still packing out the church because some people would have gotten tired of that. Those of you that were down on Chestnut with us, y'all know about the services that we had and how the church was packed every Sunday. We were forced to find a bigger location. We wouldn't be on Bannister right now if we had just said, well, we're just going to keep everything like it is. We're not going to change. And believe it or not, there were some people when we moved to Bannister said, I'm not going out there. I'm not going out there. People are so in love with a building that they refuse to make any changes. Let me tell you something that was really crazy. This happened to us, with us. Man, I'm not going to be able to finish this today. I'll finish it tomorrow. But this happened when my dad was pastor in Macedonia. The place that we were when my dad first got there as pastor was 1314 Barnett. And I'm telling you, you're talking about a hole in the wall. It was a hole in the wall. And the Spirit of the Lord kept leading my dad to make changes and to remodel and rebuild. And he led the church in putting an addition onto the building. And it was comfortable for a few years. And the ministry just kept growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And finally, the Spirit of the Lord led my dad to begin seeking out to purchase the facility where Macedonia is right now, 609 North 18th Street, Kansas City, Kansas. And that building, the first building was at 1314 Barnett. You can look it up if you want to. The new building was at 609 North 18th Street. Probably a total of about 5 blocks between the two buildings. I am so serious. If you don't believe me, look it up. About 5 blocks was the distance between the two buildings. The newer building was much nicer, much more space, much more accommodating, had the parking that we needed, along with being able to use the parking across the street at Donnelly College. But it was very, very, very accommodating. Do you not know that there were people in our congregation that decided that they were not going to move to the church 5 blocks away because they didn't feel comfortable making a change? And they stayed at the old building until another church moved in. And when another church moved into the old building, they joined the other church because they didn't want to leave the old building. 5 blocks away, y'all. That shakeup that my dad orchestrated, the move that he made, was for the good of the ministry. But some people don't like any kind of conflict. And for some people, a move was conflicting with their norms. Wow. Let me give you this. I think I can finish this up in just a few minutes. Y'all give me a few more minutes, and I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to go through this next part very, 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 very quickly. Conflict that is antagonistic in nature is unhealthy. When conflict is rooted in hatred, it's unhealthy. Okay? When you're going at a person and you know you don't like them, you know you hate them. As a matter of fact, you've grown to the level of despising that other person, and you confront that other person, that conflict is unhealthy. Where there is malicious exchange, conflict is unhealthy. You're not trying to resolve a thing, you're trying to hurt each other. When resolution is never really sought or intended, it is unhealthy. I don't care what you say or think. I'm going to continue to think the way I'm thinking because I don't like you no way. Wow. When all or one of the parties, one or all, involved in the conflict are not in a healthy place, the outcome of that conflict is going to be unhealthy. Well, okay, I gotta flesh that out a little bit. When one or all of the parties involved are not in a healthy place at that time, there are times that we cannot be in an emotionally healthy place. And when we're in that type of situation or not in an emotionally healthy place, we don't need to try to resolve conflict. Once again, if I'm not feeling very good about something and I go into the office, most of that day, my office door is going to be closed. Why? Because I'm in this space where I don't want to deal with any conflict because I may not handle it the way I should. I'm in an unhealthy place right now. Something may have upset me, and I don't want to, I don't want my being upset to spill over onto the rest of the staff. Or I don't want my administrative assistant to bring me something that's going to further upset me that I have to deal with at that particular time. And thank God for my administrative assistant who's been working for me for 29 years, Sister Lachelle. She knows when to bring me something, and she knows when to, hey, let this wait. And listen, praise God, in 29 years, we've never had to fall out about anything because we know how to communicate respectfully with one another. She has a way of even now attempting to disagree with me softly. Well, okay, Shell, I hear your well. But again, if I strongly disagree about something, I let her know. I let her know in a very calm way, But then, too, she's come to know who I am and respect who I am. Thank you again. First Lady, I thank you for thanking Sister Lachelle, because Sister Lachelle allows me to be a person. I'm the pastor all the time, but it's even more wonderful when she allows me to be a person. She understands that pastors get frustrated at times too. That pastors can at times almost be persecuted and have to deal with that persecution. Hey, newsflash, pastors do have feelings too. And feelings of pastors do get hurt, and even bruised sometimes. Y'all didn't know that? Really? And so again, when I'm feeling as though my feelings are hurt or I'm feeling bruised, I'm not in a healthy place. So I try not to deal with that conflict or whatever is going on until I am in a healthy place. But see, that has also been the reason why I try to avoid conflict, because I try to avoid being labeled by people, because anytime the pastor addresses an issue, oh, he tripping. See, I knew he wasn't right. He tripping. Why I got to be tripping when you just, I'm just being me. But if I respond and address the things that you're doing, oh, he's tripping. He's tripping. And here's the bad part about it, especially people who have worked in leadership and get disgruntled. They go out and tell people and talk about the leadership, and people have a tendency to believe that every word they say is just gospel, and really it's just gossip. If some of y'all knew the real nitty gritty and the ins and outs of some of the things y'all think y'all know, you would sit down and be quiet and quit spewing all that nonsense. I'm telling you, it's not what you think it is. Okay, how did I get off over in there? Okay. So again, you got to wait till you're in a healthy place before you deal with conflict. Let me give you 6 rules of engagement, and then I'm going to let you go. 6 rules of engagement when it comes to conflict resolution. Number 1, keep the main thing the main thing. Don't combine issues when trying to resolve conflict. It only serves to make matters worse. Keep the main thing the main thing. If you are going to resolve this issue right here, just resolve this issue. That's a good word of advice for married people who are engaging in conflict resolution. Don't have a particular issue arise, and then in order to get the upper hand on the other person, you go back in your calendar and you start bringing up everything from years gone by. And that's the reason why I said this ain't the time for it. And you did this, so and so and so. But what about when you did that? Okay, I'm going to get to that in a minute here. Keep the focus. This is a good place to put this here. Keep the focus on the what of the matter and never allow it to shift on the who of the situation. Now, those words I received from someone I dearly respect, and that's the person, Dr. Sam Chan. He says this in some of his teaching. Keep the focus on the what of the matter and never allow it to shift to the who. You got problems when you start to address who rather than the what. You know, there's an issue. This is how you should frame certain things. There's an issue with this, that, and the other going on. You know. And if you're going to address things from any who, let it be from we perspective, not just a you, a he, a she. Let it be, what we probably need to do. But anytime you shift off of the what of the situation, here's what's going on. Here's how we need to address it. And you let it shift to you. It's never going to be good, because now the person is feeling beat down, beat up, and accused. Nobody likes to feel accused. Even when a person is wrong, they don't like to feel accused. Once again, I'm going to give you one of those procedures that I do with my staff, and they're on here. They can dispute me. They have the freedom to disagree. But watch this. When something goes wrong in the ministry, when something goes wrong in the worship experience, when we gather back together to talk about it and I address the issue, I always say we have to do a better job at handling this, that, and the other. I'll say, what did we miss? I'll say, what can we do better? Regardless as to who's handling that department or responsibility, it's a we thing. I just do not say, you should have done this and you should have done. No. That's not the way I operate. That's not, because see, one of the things that I want my staff people to please understand, that whatever we go through, I'm still on your team. I'm on your team. I'm going to support you. I'm going to help you to be all that you can be. I don't want to denigrate you, because I want you to maintain your confidence. I want you to know that you can succeed because you have support behind you to succeed. Keep it on the what, Dr. Who. Number 3, always be quick to hear and slow to speak. Sometimes if we just take the time to listen, the issue can be quickly resolved. And when I talk about listen, I'm not just talking about letting the sound hit your ears. I'm talking about giving consideration to what's being said, being able to empathize with that other person, to gather the information and process the information. Even if you have to say, well, let me think about that. Number 4, be open to apologize where apology is warranted. Number 5, be willing to forgive when forgiveness is sought. It's getting tougher and tougher. But I tell you what, if you start to engage these rules of engagement, then you'll find yourself resolving conflict a lot more often and a lot easier. And the last one, once the conflict is resolved, put it in file 13. That means discard it. Throw it away. Put it in the trash. Forget about it. It's over. It's done. Leave it alone. Don't revisit it. Don't bring it back up. Don't put it in your reserve gun belt as a fresh bullet that will do the damage that you need it to do in the future. Kill it. Let it be over with. Did that help y'all? I'm done. I know I've gone over time today. I'm done. I just wanted to share those things with you and hope that from this day forward, you can move forward in conflict resolution. Now, again, I think I do need to say this. There are some people that will never desire resolve with certain conflicts. And what you have to do there is just keep it moving. Don't let it bog you down. Don't let it disturb you. Don't let it occupy your thinking to the degree that you're stressed out about it. There are some people that I just had to decide, well, you know what? I'm just going to have to shake the dust off my feet. I'm going to have to keep it moving. I've done all that I can do. Yep, there are times that I just give up on trying to deal with certain things because it's no longer worth my time and my energy. It's not worth my stress levels being raised to the degree that my blood pressure is going up and my body's not feeling right because I'm allowing something that is negative to occupy my thinking and my existence. Free yourself from all that. Hope this bless you. Hope this help you. Hit that like button. Go ahead. Hit that thumbs up. Let people know that you appreciate what's being shared. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications. It's been a joy. I think we got this week started off just right. Got it started off right. And I'm looking forward to being with you all the rest of this week So as I often say, God bless you all, and y'all have a wonderful, wonderful